Devastating disasters have struck in a county of California. I have put together some facts that conclude that these were not natural, their affiliation with other unanswered experiments, and the suspicion that the media overlooks, along with some science experiments that prove that something else is going on. California has been experiencing drought for the last few years. Regardless, these are generally green areas because they are near to the coastline. If you look at a map, you can see that these are separate fires in separate locations amongst the same county, but at the same time.
Okay, it's April 8th, it's noon Central Time, and this is the most aggressive chemtrailing I have ever seen on any satellite map. And this is completely centered on the growing area of California, the San Joaquin Valley. The purpose of chemtrails is to completely turn off the rain with aluminum and strontium and barium.
There are many concerns with aluminum, but I will focus on the fires. It is clear that the heat layer caused by this aluminum in the sky does not allow for water to condense into clouds, so no chance of rain, creating droughts. The supposed purpose of aluminum is to reflect sunlight back into space. That would work if this was a solid aluminum shield, but as they are spraying aluminum vapor, it works more like a magnifying glass or a metal concentrating sun rays to a focal point, scorching the earth and even causing fires. Here are some examples I found that prove this effect.
In fact, earlier today, one of those hotspots ended up burning an 18-unit apartment complex.
The rainy season didn't happen.
Yes. A Fox News alert now, and the question is being asked, were these wildfires in Southern California set on purpose?
That's right. You know, obviously, we're in the middle of a horrible drought in this part of California.
Firenado, it's where wind funnels the flames upward, similar to a twister or a tornado, not something you see every day.
Fire tornadoes are claimed to be extremely rare, other than a few reports like the one in Australia that I call the beta test. No one has ever seen these fire whirls, no reports, no word of mouth, nothing. So if these complex phenomenons are so rare, what caused there to be so many of these mobile destructive disasters in California recently? Multiple news reports the official cause of fire whirls to be the heat from the fire in contact with cold air and little wind. If this were true, almost all fires would create fire whirls. More importantly, if this were true, what caused 2 tornadoes caught on tape with no fire in San Diego the day of the fires, and the video I personally shot the day before the fires 140 miles away.
How does this all come together to create that spiral? Well, first of all, the fire burns into a hot bed of fuel, whether it's low grasses or low shrubs, something that really gets it going. So you're talking about 1,500 to 2,200 degrees in temperature. Then a cold pocket of air appears somewhere above it, and all of that hot air starts rushing up toward that cold pocket, and you end up getting that typical spiraling pattern that you see in tornadoes, in fact. And up it goes, and as it does, it brings in hot gases from down around the ground, which may not be burning here, but as they get up high enough where there's enough oxygen, they burst into flames, and that establishes that column which starts rotating more and more.
Right now, fire investigators are actually looking at the ignition points of all 9 of these fires. They tell us that they are looking into arson potentially because so many fires broke out in such a short amount of time.
Basically a tornado colliding with a brush fire. But when you talk about a fire whirl, or a fire devil as some people call it, we're talking about something more around 20, 30, 40 miles an hour instead of hundreds of miles an hour. But it's still dangerous, and here's why. Because those winds we talked about earlier can make these things lay over, and they start going horizontal, and then it's essentially like a blowtorch blowing hundreds of degrees, thousands of degrees out across the ground, a huge danger to firefighters who get close. And here's another danger. I talked about the gases that get drawn in. Even as this thing is going straight up in the air, also there are very tiny particles that are drawn in. And they may not be burning here either, but when they get up high, they burst into flames. Then they can be flung out and carried by the winds so far that they start creating little ancillary fires off in the distance. And it's very easy for firefighters who are too close to one of these, or citizens who are too close, to find themselves caught. And imagine if this fire that catches them between this spreads all around. And suddenly they're essentially in a ring of fire, surrounded in all directions. That's why these have to be treated with caution. And these are fairly common. Fire whirls like this, Jake, I've been covering fires for a long time, more than 30 years. You rarely get to see them up close as we have, but they're out there and they have to be treated with respect.
And that's one of the reasons for the evacuation orders we keep hearing about. Tom Foreman, thank you so much.